So why do HR leaders need to drive strategic transformation? Well, every business, in fact, every organization these days is experiencing the need for strategic transformation caused by the digitalization of business processes. And we know that in almost every industry, in every territory, digital technologies have had a profound effect on how we deliver value to our customers. You could say that it is no longer about organizational positioning or operational efficiencies, organizational processes and structure. It is rather about how organizations both create and deliver value to their customers. Um, it is really about creating information rich customer solutions that can be delivered in a technologically seamless and highly personalized way. So if the company or even organization say that they haven't experienced this disruptive effect of digital technologies, they are either myopic in their strategic vision, or they have already missed that inflection point and now we could say going on the way down. Right? So about HR. HR has been traditionally regarded as a strategy implementer. For 3 decades, we talked the role of HR in the implementation of business strategies. We talked about the need to get that seat at the table or a key to that C-suite or a room where all strategic decisions are being made. So today, one could argue, I would argue, HR finally has that key and even is seated at the table. But everybody else has left room. Because of these sporadic changes and disruptions, because of all those things are happening outside of organizational boundaries, strategy making, strategy formulation is no longer takes place inside of that C-suite. It takes place in the close proximity with the customers, outside of organizational boundaries, perhaps with new perceptions of, what's permanent and what's temporary. And HR is still sitting inside of that building, you could say, maybe even imprisoned by the notion of supportive function or blinded by this self-imposed role of a strategy implementer and chained to our very own, HR view or will of annual processes. So you could say it is to a certain extent self-imposed role that preventing us from getting into the driver's seat of strategic transformation. I think right now the timing is perfect. So everyone in that C-suite, every strategy or senior strategy maker suddenly realize that this question about how do we deliver that information-rich customer solution is tightly interlinked with organizational capabilities that are rooted in the individual behaviors and the way individuals interact with organizational structures and processes. And there is no other organizational function that knows more about how we influence individual behaviors and how do we organize for interactions between individuals and that organizational structure and processes so we achieve synergies, complementarities, so that 2+2 becomes 5, right? And because HR is so good in solving problems and finding the answers, we started naturally with ourselves, right? So what happened is that with all this pressure for this, arrival of digital technologies and AI, machine learning in HR, again, seeing lots of technologies, for example, in the whole shift towards evidence-based, solutions and things like this. So we jumped very quickly on the train and started fixing ourselves. So corporate HR functions digitize their recruitment, partially outsource it to AI. They perhaps upgraded onboarding. Very good example, was very useful in the recent years. They digitized some part of the performance management processes or established certain operational, and systems for things like strategic workforce planning or analytics. And all these are examples of digitization because, again, we are doing the same things. We're just doing that a little bit better, faster, more efficient, hopefully also achieving the better result. But this is really a technological makeover, facelifting of HR function views. It is very much about doing digital, which I would argue, and the strategy literature very much, goes that direction as well. Very different from being digital. So doing digital is about doing things better, introducing changes in what we are already producing right now, it perhaps modifying ways how we deliver business value, while being digital is about fundamentally transforming how we create business value. So fundamentally transforming our core. And you asked also where we are on this journey. Well, I think we are doing good on digitization, on that doing digital, on the technological makeovers. Of course, some companies are doing better than others. Some industries are doing better than others. Some regions, some territories are doing better than others. But as for being digital, I think we are still very much at the beginning. And it is so because there is actually a challenge, which in strategy literature called a duality of digitals. They need to simultaneously introduce changes in how we, in improving business, going from good to great, but at the same time, changing that core. So it's almost like you need to kind of upgrade, if you wish, technologically, everything you do, but at the same time, change the core of what you're doing. And the challenge, and that's why it's called strategic transformation. The challenge is really, it's not either or, it's both and. It is doing things better and doing things differently. It's about doing right things and doing things right. It's about managing human capital to become successful and at the same time doing things or managing human capital to stay successful. And in a sense, it's about decreasing costs of human capital while simultaneously increasing its value in use. So that's the true challenge because it actually requires two different mindsets, very different operational models, and perhaps, even two different cultures. And that's the challenge of strategic transformation. For CHROs that are at the beginning of this exciting, not scary, exciting path of strategic transformation, I think the first question should be how do we create value for customers through our human capital? So how do we create value for customers? No, not organization, not other functions. How do we create value for customers through the use of our human capital? And it's not about what we're doing right now. It's not about what we could do given and etc. It's about what we should do because of the needs of the customer, right? And that answer, again, just to repeat myself, it should be that solution that should be definitely information enriched. So evidence based. It should, in its delivery, be technologically seamless, and highly personalized. And in whatever we find that answer, how do we create value, it should be focused on increasing human capital value in use rather than just focusing only on efficiency and things like this. And it definitely should be around augmentation rather than automation. Although I have to say, one doesn't exist without. And the final little thing I would say, there are lots of unknowns about the future of HR in this technologically driven world. I think there are more opportunities than threats. HR is the only function that can actually, from its intellectual base, answer the question, answer the challenge of augmentation. because we do know about people and we do know about how they act on the interfaces, and we do know how to create the synergies and complementarity. So all eyes on us. I think technology is actually really giving us a second chance by us. I mean, both HR professionals as well as academics who are doing the research in HR. So I'm extremely excited about the future. And I hope also that our discussion on the 27th of June in the CHRO Idea Incubator will definitely welcome these topics. You could say on the surface, we talk about quote unquote traditional HR issues such as skills, culture, the function, HR leadership. But there are at least two conversations that are going through all this. And one of them is around the digitalization and the role of technology. And the other one, I hope, would be an EDI perspective that we also need to bring into the conversation, regardless what we are talking